through the Auckland University. Mr Chair.
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Yeah, Mr Chair, I wish to take a call on part two. It's interesting listening to the debate in the House tonight. I'd like to make a few comments. First of all, I think it's important to realise that part two is a very important part. I acknowledge the contribution that the Chair of the Government Administration Committee, the Honourable Ruth Dyson, made before. I acknowledge that the Select Committee did a lot of work on this bill, and I thank them on behalf of the Minister for that. Importantly, part two, I did introduce the bill, and I acknowledge, Mr Mallard, the good work of the Select Committee and the bill that we now have in front of us. Importantly, part two looks at the provisions relating to the confirmation service and miscellaneous matters. And I think the important thing, and I'll come on to Jan Logie's SOP in a moment, it also talks about how to use the confirmation service in Clause 9. It talks about the parties to the confirmation agreement in Clause 10. That's an important part. It also talks about in Clause 11 the general requirements for form and content of the confirmation agreement, and it follows through right through to the terms and conditions of that agreement, and importantly under clauses 13 and 14 the safeguards that the Privacy Commissioner has over this particular piece of legislation. So if I refer now to the members' SOP, Jan Logie's one, which is number 148. I think, first of all, it's worthwhile mentioning that there are legitimate reasons why employers may need to confirm the identity information of a potential employee. There are no current provisions, as I understand it, in the Citizenship Act of 1977 or the Births, Deaths and Marriages Act of 1995 for the employer to verify the citizenship status of potential employees. And this bill allows employers to verify a potential employee is a New Zealand citizen. And that's an important part of this bill. And to hear and to read the SOP from Jan Logie and hear her comments about that this opens up a system to provide pressure on the employee, I don't agree. I don't also agree with her comments that it's going to trigger discrimination, because ultimately the individual has to consent. And if I can find that part to try and reassure the member, it's covered under Clause 8A. The individual has consented in written or electronic form to the check before it is carried out, and it goes on to I believe, clarify that the individual won't be pressured because they have to consent to it. So the government doesn't support the Greens' SOP because that's an important part that is included in the bill to allow the employer to clarify the status of the employee.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
It's sort of not very often that I agree with the Honourable Nathan Guy, but I think with respect to